Last time, we learned how to prove who you are. Basic auth, bearer tokens, JWTs. But here's the thing. What happens when you want to use a third-party app? You're not giving them your password. Welcome to Part 2, OAuth 2.0 and PKCE. Imagine a fitness app wants your Google Calendar data. Option A, hand over your Google password. Option B, let Google give the app a limited pass. OAuth is option B. Think of it like a hotel. You check in at the front desk. That's you logging in. They don't give you the master key that opens every room. They give you a key card. It opens your room for a limited time. If you lose it, they can deactivate it instantly. OAuth works exactly the same way. OAuth defines 4 players. The guest, that's you, the resource owner. The app, the client requesting access. The front desk, Google's authorization server that verifies you. And the room, the resource server where your data lives. Just like a hotel key might open the pool but not the spa, OAuth uses scopes. The consent screen shows exactly what the app wants: your email, your profile, maybe read-only calendar access. You pick what to allow. The most common OAuth flow is the Authorization Code Flow. Let me walk you through it. Step 1. You click Sign in with Google. The app constructs a special URL with its client ID, the scopes it wants, and where Google should send you back. Step 2. Your browser redirects to Google's login page. Step 3. You log into Google directly. The app never touches your password. Google shows you the consent screen. You review the requested permissions, and you click Allow. Step 4. Google redirects you back to the app with an authorization code in the URL. This code is temporary. It expires in minutes. One-time use only. Step 5. The app's server sends this code, along with its client secret, directly to Google's token endpoint, server to server. No browser involved. Google verifies the code and responds with an access token. Step 6. The app uses that access token to call Google's API, get /calendar/events, authorization, bearer token. Your data comes back. Done. Password never exposed. But wait, what if someone intercepts that authorization code during the redirect? On mobile apps and single-page apps, there's no safe place to store a client's secret. That makes the code exchange vulnerable. Enter PKCE. It stands for Proof Key for Code Exchange. Originally designed for mobile apps, it turned out to be so effective that in modern standards like OAuth 2.1, it's required for all clients. Before the login redirect happens, the app generates a random secret string called the code verifier. It then hashes this using SHA 256 to create a code challenge. The important part? The verifier never leaves the device. Only the challenge is sent to Google. Think of it like a sealed envelope. You can see the outside, but not what's inside. This code challenge is added to the authorization request. Google stores it and essentially says, whoever comes back with the authorization code must prove they created this challenge. Later, when the app exchanges the authorization code for an access token, it sends along the original code verifier. Google hashes it again and compares it to the stored challenge. If they match, the app is verified and the token is issued. Now imagine an attacker intercepts the authorization code. Without the code verifier, which never left the original app, they can't complete the process. The stolen code becomes useless. So the full flow is simple and secure. Generate a verifier and challenge, send the challenge with the auth request. The user logs in, the app receives the code, then sends the code along with the verifier. Google validates the match and finally issues the token for API access. The authorization code flow is the most common one, but OAuth actually has a few different grant types for different situations. First, there's client credentials. This is for machine-to-machine communication, no user involved at all. Your backend service just authenticates using its own credentials. It's what you'd use for things like microservices talking to each other, cron jobs, or backend-to-backend API calls. Then there's device authorization. This is designed for devices that don't have a proper browser, like smart TVs, CLI tools, or gaming consoles. Instead of logging in directly on the device, it shows you a code. You enter that code on your phone or laptop, and once you're authenticated there, the device gets access. And then there's the implicit flow. It used to be recommended for single-page apps because it skips the code exchange and gives you the token directly in the URL. But that turned out to be a bad idea. Tokens in URLs can leak through browser history, logs, and more, so it's now officially deprecated. The modern approach is simple. Just use authorization code with PKCE, one flow that works everywhere and does it securely. OAuth gives you two types of tokens. The access token is like a hotel keycard. It's short-lived, usually anywhere from a few minutes to about an hour, and it's what the app uses to actually access the API. Then there's the refresh token. Think of it as a VIP pass. It lasts much longer, days, sometimes weeks, and it lets the app get a new access token without asking you to log in again. So when the access token expires, the app quietly uses the refresh token to fetch a new one in the background. No prompts, no interruptions. The user never even notices. That's why you can stay logged into apps for weeks without re-entering your password. And if you ever need to cut off access, there's token revocation. Log out from all devices and every token tied to that session is invalidated immediately. Just like deactivating a hotel keycard. It stops working on the spot. Now let's put it all together with a real sign in with Google flow. You click the button and the app immediately generates a PKCE code verifier and its matching challenge. It then redirects you to Google, sending along that challenge. On Google's page, you log in and approve the requested permissions. Once that's done, Google sends the app back an authorization code. The app takes that code and exchanges it, along with the original code verifier. Google hashes the verifier, compares it with the earlier challenge, and if everything matches, it returns your tokens. The app uses the access token to call the API. And just like that, you're in. And if anything goes wrong along the way, the flow doesn't just try anyway, it fails fast and safely. Invalid redirect URI? Rejected. Expired authorization code? Rejected. Wrong code verifier? The hash won't match? Rejected. Every step is verified. There's really no room for error. Let's talk about 4 common mistakes developers make with OAuth. First, storing tokens in local storage. It might seem convenient, but it's risky. XSS attacks can easily grab those tokens. A safer approach is to use HTTP-only cookies, which aren't accessible from JavaScript. Second, skipping PKCE on web apps. That's no longer optional. PKCE is now considered essential. Don't skip it. Third, using wildcard redirect URIs. This is a big one. Redirect URIs should always be an exact match. No wildcards, no patterns. Fourth, not rotating refresh tokens. If a refresh token gets stolen and never changes, it basically becomes a permanent backdoor into the user's account. Now, here's a simple OAuth security checklist you can follow. Always use PKCE. No exceptions. Match redirect UR. Is exactly. Keep access tokens short-lived, ideally under an hour. Use HTTPS everywhere. Again, no exceptions. Request only the scopes you actually need. Follow the principle of least privilege. And rotate refresh tokens every time they're used. OAuth 2.0 lets you delegate access without ever sharing passwords. The authorization code flow is the gold standard, PKCE makes it secure, and proper token management keeps everything running safely behind the scenes. But this is just the beginning. Next up, OpenID Connect, how OAuth evolves into a full identity system, and how single sign-on powers seamless logins across apps in the enterprise. Stick around so you don't miss it.